Thank you, President Bill. If you ever get an opportunity to be the program chair for the club, do it. It seems like it's, oh my God, I got something to worry about every week, but you already do. So it's just one more thing, and then you start to meet and get to know some very fascinating people. Our speaker today is Joe Aaron. Joe and I had communicated via email a number of times, but didn't meet till this morning. And it takes about that long to get to know someone and to engage in conversation and start learning a lot about folks. Joe's a graduate of what he calls the 11th best college in Georgia, the University of West Georgia. I'm a graduate of Chico State, the best college in California. In Chico, thank you. Thank you, Bruce. He's also a graduate of the Defense Language Institute in Monterey, where he studied the Egyptian dialect of Arabic. He began his professional career as an FBI agent, working foreign counterintelligence. That's not what he's talking about today, but foreign counterintelligence specializing in Middle Eastern affairs. From 1978 to 1981, he was a spokesperson for the San Francisco office. And as I recall, there was a lot going on in those days in San Francisco, so well done. In 1982, he retired from the FBI, entered the securities business, entered the securities business with Morgan Stanley, where he specialized in traditional money management. In 98, he founded Wood, Hat, and Silver, LLC, an SEC registered investment advisor where he ran a hedge fund, retiring in 2006 and relocating to Sonoma. Finding he had too much attention and time on his hands, he turned his attention to the future. His focus is on demographics and technology and the impact they have on our economy. Futurists are amazing people to hear speak. I heard one a few times back in the late 70s who talked about the rise of single-parent families, the rise of the Hispanic population, everything we've now seen coming through in this community. So I would say pay attention. These guys do know what they're talking about. Joe, thank you.
So let's welcome our speaker. How do you do, honest speaker? How do you do? Is there anything that we can do for you? Thanks for coming here today. We are with you all the way. How do you do, honored speaker? How do you do?
So Joe is not going to use the microphone, so I would ask that we need to be extra quieter than usual.
Marty.
Hi, Marty.
Hey, I object to looking over there.
Yeah, except I gotta get him to come on this room. There we go. You're welcome.
Thank you very much. I think you can all hear me. Is that right? You can't hear me in the back. That's too bad. You need to leave. So I want to compliment Matt for having the good sense to name his fundraiser Cajun on such a hot weekend. That's the elephant in the room. Not really. It's the elephant in the room is what the heck is an economic futurist. You gonna do that? Yes. Special. I feel real special, Joe. Thank you, Joe. If I could lead a course like you can, perfect. Okay, what is an economic futurist? Futurist identifies trends in society, and they're a dime a dozen. We economic futurists, we're the real deal because we deal with the impact of these trends on our economy. And the way we identify a trend is the difference between linear growth and exponential growth. Linear growth being I take 30 steps across the room here, and I've known 30 steps. But exponential growth is 1, 2, 4, 8, 16, 32, etc. And if I took 30 exponential steps, I would have gone around the world in 12 and a half times. And we all refer to that as Moore's Law. We're all familiar with Moore's Law, Gordon Moore, and said the number of integrated circuits was on a processor was doubling every 2 years or 16 months. So the chief executive of Intel, a guy named Andy Grove, about 22 years later was frustrated in how the market was appreciating all Intel had done to change our world. And so he put the problem on his engineers, said, compare us to another product. So he compared us to a Volkswagen Beetle. What if it had progressed at the same speed the Intel chip had progressed. And the engineers determined that that Volkswagen would go 300 miles per hour. It would get 2 million miles per gallon. And it would cost you 4 cents. Now, Moore's Law has been around long before Gordon Moore. It was, the first time I realized it was the turn of the last century, when agriculture accounted for almost 50% of our jobs. And today, as you know, it's about 2. The next was the human genome, which took us 13 years. They started in 1990. 13 years. It cost 2.7 billion. Then it was 400 million. Then it was 50 million. Then it was 100 million. And before you know it, it was $1,000 last year. And it's on its way to about $100 now. You can sequence your genome for $100. They can design pills for you to treat diseases based upon your own generic makeup. 13 years to 3 weeks, 2.7 billion to $100. Soon it's going to cost more to flush your toilet than to sequence your genome. So, cell phones, they were the size of this podium when they first came out. The smart people at McKinsey, the great consulting firm, they told AT&T to get out of business because there wasn't but 1 million people, potential clients. You get what you pay for. So Moore's Law was reducing the size of the cell phone every day to what we have today. Every 2 years, it was reducing the size. Steve Jobs, 10 years ago, this year, introduced the iPhone, and I think we have 6 million smartphones across the world. The smart people, again, were saying, those who didn't go to West Georgia College, they were saying, bam, it's going to grow at 10, 15% a year. Well, when it was actually going 50%, and you just don't see this because you're all tied up in your own numbers. And for instance, drones, they're not doubling the distance they can fly in 2 years. They're doubling it every 9 months. They're doubling the weight they can carry every 9 months. So you have to think differently. And Apple should have never brought that advertising scheme. Think differently. And as a futurist, everybody in this room, I'm going to tell you how to do it. I've already told you how to identify a trend here. So when you think of Uber, stop and realize they don't own a single taxi cab. They don't own a single car. And when you think of the world's largest media company, you're the ones producing all the content for them. You're doing the work for them, nobody else. Alibaba, if you're not familiar with it, it's Mandarin for Amazon. They extraordinarily enough, have no inventory. So you see the trend here, Airbnb owns no real estate. So I'm going to talk to you for the next 10 or 15 minutes here about the disruption that's going to be caused in your life by the autonomous vehicle and the electric vehicle. They're beautiful sisters, I tell you. So it took 13 years to go from the horse and carriage after the automobile was invented to no more horses and carriages. It's going to take a little bit longer here, but by 2030, which has definable features to everybody I'm looking at, 2030, 90% of miles that are traveled in a car will be in autonomous vehicles. And it'll be called transportation as a service. Transportation as a service, let me get back here, is going to be 4 to 10 times less per mile. Now that's what I have to do to connect the dots for you and make you see that this is reality and it's going to happen and that you would engage the car sharing economy. So we started the autonomous vehicle. The first one was a tractor in the Midwest. You heard about them running all night. Next was the long haul trucks. They're going to line up 6 to 8, about that far apart, getting the drag, the drift on the highway. There's going to be a guy sitting in the cab working on his device. He's probably calling his mother. He's a good kid. Because somebody has to drive those trucks in to pull out, gas them up, get them back out on the highway. They'll all lose their job to the autonomous truck, pardon me. Doesn't matter, there's only 1.5 million of them. It'll happen over 13 years. We lose 2 million jobs a month in this country. We gain 2,000 jobs a month. There's 155 million jobs in America. We're at an all-time high. It only matters if you're a trucker. So, with an autonomous vehicle, you'll no longer need to own a car. The people in New York don't own taxi cabs. And the autonomous vehicle of the car, of the future, will be electric. No ifs, no ands, no buts. Tesla has proven that, and here's our trend on electric cars. The stock market, which is a forward-looking entity, it says Tesla is hot stuff. And in fact, Tesla as a company is worth more than Ford Motor Company. A couple of months ago, it was worth more than General Motors, but today it's just Ford. Motor Trend magazine named Tesla the car of the year in 2013. Now, it didn't name it electric car of the year, it named it car of the year. Right? And then Consumer Reports came in and gave it 103 on the 100 scale. You know, as Buffalo Springfield said, something's happening here. What it is ain't exactly clear. So here's the trend, and this is not a very good graph. Down here it shows 2011 and there's 20,000 cars. Up at the top we have, in 2016, we have 160,000 electric cars. Tesla's supposed to produce 400 or 500,000 this year. That's probably not going to happen, and here's some of the reasons why it's not going to happen. One, he only has one plant. China's trying to get it. He only has one gigafactory to produce 500,000 cars. He needs that plant, the largest building in the world, to be 4 times as big. Now, he's already ordered it to be doubled. And China, they're ahead of us on this, folks. They produce more electric cars than anybody in the world. Of course, they have more pollution than anybody in the world. And they have 9 gigafactories, either under construction or on the planning board. Now, 2 trends have to occur. 2 things have to happen before the electric car is going to be accepted. It's got to go 300 miles with driver's anxiety. I have a little BMW, the i3, it's, you know, the butt ugly little boxy car. It only goes 80. I pulled into my garage so many times with 5 miles on the. I mean, I have trouble with anxiety about how far you go. And the car has to be sold for less than $35,000. $35,000 is the average cost of a car in the United States. And until we pass those 2 thresholds, it's not coming down. Now, one thing you don't even have to be a futurist to know, everybody in this room knows, that one thing is for certain. The cost of the battery is going to go down. The time it takes to charge the battery is going to go down. The distance the car will travel is going to go up. And the battery is going to be safer. Now, the battery in an electric car accounts for about 40% of the cost of that vehicle. So Moore's Law is driving down the cost of that battery somewhere between 8 and 12% a year. Here you can see another lousy graph which shows crossover where and remember they're being subsidized right now by tax credits, etc. But there'll be crossover in the cost of the electric car. So one of the big unknowns that you don't think about until you have one is I plug my little car in. I don't go to the gas station. It's so nice not have to go to the gas station. It is so nice. And it costs me $15 to charge my car for every $100 I spend on gas. That's an economic feature that everybody can understand. So if you make your living driving your Ford F-150 around town, you're cleaning up yards, you're fixing broken sinks and everything else, you're probably spending $200 a month. And an electric Ford F-150E, which hasn't been invented yet, is only going to cost you $60. You can do that math because you're saving $140 a month, and we can do that by, what is that? Oh, well, never mind. I'm not that quick. So, the other big thing is maintenance. Everybody in this room has probably taken their internal combustion in the stink pot in for some maintenance in the last year. I've had mine for 3 years. It has never been to the shop, except they wanted to upgrade some software. So when I say 80% less, I'm lying. It's 99% less in my case. And here is the only study I've been able to find. It was done with taxis in Ontario, Canada. And the color is a little distance there, but down on the bottom, that's the cost of the human in the taxi. It's about 50% of it. Then when you subtract the license and the insurance and the fuel and the repairs, the cost of the vehicle is nominal. And that's the reason it's going to save everybody so much money. And $5,600 is the estimate of what a family of four is going to save each year. Now, if you're making $50,000 a year, you're making 40. If you make $40,000 a year, that means you make $20 an hour. And you and your significant other both make $20 an hour. You're making 80. If you can save $5,600 after tax, you are happy. You are happy. So you're going to consider an electric vehicle. I'm not talking about an autonomous vehicle, an electric vehicle. Our productivity growth, which is the reason we're richer than our parents, because of productivity growth. Well, it's going to improve because with the autonomous car, we can work on our devices, we can call, we can do whatever we want that is productive instead of spending an hour commuting. Now, here's some things to consider. And I admit I'm a little bit of a car guy, and it's a little embarrassing to say this, and it's a little off color, but I'm going to say it anyway. Our cars sit on their lazy ass 96% of the time. You go to work, and you go to the grocery store. Then on the weekend, you run a few errands. With the autonomous vehicle, we'll be sharing those. We'll be sharing those. Now let me ask you, that Ford Motor Company tells us they're coming out with an autonomous vehicle, and by that they mean no steering wheel, no pedals. That's level 4. There's 5 levels. Who in this room is going to buy one in 2021? The answer is nobody. I don't blame you. The fact is, I don't think they'll be for sale. I think Ford will own them. And they'll place them in the city. They'll place them in the city, and the millennial walks out, looks at his phone. I've had a little too much to drink. What do I want? Uber or an autonomous car? Well, I have to talk to that Uber driver and see who's the closest. And they look on their devices and they say, bing, there's an autonomous car 3 cars down, because the city's going to subsidize it. They'll want that autonomous car parked on the street. They're not going to give them a price. And in fact, they will provide for the electric charging. It'll come inducted from beneath the pavement in the next 5 years. So we have about 250 million cars and trucks on the road today. That's one for every man, woman, and child that's old enough to drive. We've got enough cars. But with the ride-sharing economy, the number of cars could drop as much as 50%. Imagine the impact on our economy. General Motors and Ford are selling 50% less cars. They sell 15, 16, 17 million cars a year in the United States. So 30 years from now, not 30 years, by 2030, when they build a new home, they're not going to have a garage in it. It's going to be wasted space. No DMV, I love that one particularly. And here's something that'll offend any grandparent. If you got a kid under 5, they're never going to get a driver's license. They're never going to own a car. Let me restate that. They will not be allowed to have a driver's license, that grandchild, because we kill about 30,000, 40,000 people a year. We've driven millions of miles. hundreds of millions of miles with these autonomous cars. We've had one accident which was proven not to be the fault of the Tesla. Okay, out of business, the disruption, Allstate, Geico, and Progressive. The cost of automobile insurance is going to plummet when there are no accidents and there's less cars. I named them because they're the three publicly traded companies. Avis and Hertz. Avis can try as hard as it wants. The only value it will lead in the future is they know how to clean up a dirty car. And as my nephew inarticulately put it, make it puke-proof. They can do that, and they do it well. So taxi drivers and bus drivers, well, yeah, they're out of jobs. It's only probably 750,000 jobs. Remember, we have 155 million workers. That's not 1% of the workforce. We're at 4.3, 4.4. We're hitting on all cylinders, this economy is, for employment. You want a job, you can have a job in America. You don't need to be worrying about some immigrant taking your job. And I don't see anybody here want to climb up on the pickers ladder and take that guy's job. So Lamborghini, Ferrari, and Maserati, they're out of business. Maserati's going electric in 2 years. I don't know if anyone's read that. They're going electric in 2 years. Fastest car in the world from 0 to 60 is the Tesla on the ludicrous level. Anybody heard of that? Have you done it?
No.
I was in one. I was very uncomfortable. And literally, you say ludicrous mode on the big computer screen, and a pop-up comes up and says, "You really want to do this, or should we call your mother?" And it is breathtaking. It is breathtaking. I said, the autonomous car was invented at Carnegie Mellon in Pittsburgh, and you can get a ride in an autonomous vehicle there with Uber. I was there. I got in the autonomous car, and the first time it goes across, oncoming traffic, you're pushing on that seat a little bit, But after 3 or 4, I was quite calm, quite composed, and was ready. So the gas stations, the 100,000 gas stations across the country, they'll have a change of use. The car dealerships, they'll be cleaning up the local, they're called vehicle services. Chevrolet is called Maven. Car2Go is Mercedes or Chrysler, and Reach now is IBM. You can get the app. Think about it. If you're looking for a ride, you don't care if it's Uber or Maven or Ford's autonomous car. You just want to ride, and you want it quickly. What will determine your loyalty will be how clean that autonomous vehicle is. Now, I must have missed a slide in there somewhere, because it says companies that make those 2,000 parts. In your stink pot, you have 2,000 moving parts. An electric car has 20, if you want to include the windshields and the windows. What could possibly go wrong, But that's going to be a ripple through the economy. There's no if, ands, or buts. Don't be worried about everybody losing their job. I'm here to tell you, anybody who wants a job is going to have a job. In Japan, they are paying workers to relocate to Japan. They are not offering them citizenship. They're not offering citizenship. But Japan's birth rate is 1.4. You need 2.1 to maintain the population of a country. Last year, the population shrunk by a full 1 million people. That's the first in the civilized world. It's never happened. The mother used to deliver 1 million babies a year since 1899. Last year, they missed that. They're a dying country. 1 in 4 Japanese is over 65 years old. So now the barrel of oil, the big impact here, about 50% of a barrel of oil goes to transportation. 25% goes to diesel, 25% goes to jets. The other 25% goes to your stink pots. Right? So now how long is it going to take us to get rid of the stink pot and replace it with an electric vehicle, and you're not thinking differently if you don't know the answer. The autonomous vehicle is going to be a lifeline for senior citizens. They're going to call it and say, Alexa, I need a car. I want to go to the grocery store. And it's going to pull up. They don't have to do anything with it. They just get it. Alexa, you know the Sebastopol supermarket. Yes, I do. And off they'll go. They're going to start using it. Now, I'm going to save everybody in this room about $5,000 or $10,000.
Thank you.
Thank you. Where's the love? I expected a little bit more. Here's what's happening. Don't you dare buy a brand new stink pot. Don't you dare. And the reason you don't do it, you can lease it if you don't want an electric car. You can lease it, but don't you dare buy a new one, because it's like a game of musical chairs. Everybody's going to be, the poor are immediately going to start using the autonomous cars. They're going to immediately start, they're going to abandon their stink pots. So who's going to buy yours 10 years from now? It's called a natural buyer in the stock market. Who's going to buy that stock? Who is the natural buyer for that stock? Who is the natural buyer for your stink pot? There won't be any. And all of a sudden, you'll be stuck with that albatross and unable to sell it. I figure we'll lose about 100 million cars will be abandoned. So, peak oil, we have 10 million barrels of oil produced in California a day, or in the United States a day. The peak oil in the world is about 96. And they keep talking about peak demand. Well, we'll never, it's trading at about $50. We'll never make 100 million barrels of oil per day. Now, a barrel of oil, in my estimation, will never go above $60. And why? Because of a Moore's Law disruptive, groundbreaking technology called fracking. You know, I'm not talking dirty. They'll just turn it on. They'll turn on the pumps, and we'll get all the oil we want for less. The fleet operators, they're the ones who are going to own the autonomous car. Making a car is an 8% margin. Being a fleet operator of a car is a 20% profit margin. So Uber and Lyft will join forces with Ford, General Motors, and Mercedes. And all of a sudden, the utilization rate of those autonomous vehicles, instead of like mine and yours, 5% of the time, it's going to be 60% of the time, because they're going to be on the job at 6 a.m., they're going to be done at midnight, taking home your drunk nephew. So, I've already saved you $5,000 to $10,000. Lease your stink pot, I did that. Okay, I'm ahead of myself. Here's, I call it piling on. An electric vehicle is designed to go about 1 million miles before you have to recycle. It's good for 7,000 charges. Not that you'd want to do the math, that's a little over 19 years. New car demand is going to be down 50%. And the Keystone Pipeline will never pump oil. You heard it here. So there's real bad news if you're Saudi Arabia, Russia, Iran, or Venezuela, depending on your oil to create revenues for it. You're in deep, deep, deep caca, because in 20 years, all that 25% in oil production is going to disappear. Going to disappear. And when it does, and you can't pay the bills, there's going to be a disruption in your own country. And frankly, I think we're pretty close to civil war in Venezuela as I speak. So the good news is the average family saves $5,600. Our productivity growth will be up. It'll add about $2 trillion to our GDP. The autonomous vehicle will provide a lifeline for our seniors. And what's left to invent? What can make us more productive? I've got the answer. Beam me up, Scotty. Beam me up. I could give this speech in San Francisco and be back in Sonoma before lunch. So my conclusion about the future and what I've observed, if man can conceive it, a woman can make it happen.
Yeah!
Thank you. You're very generous. I see a few questions. I'll stay afterwards. I never get this type of reception. I'll start here if I may. And Nelson.
So all of this sounds great in the metropolitan area. I live 7 or 8 miles out of town.
Yes.
When is it going to impact us?
Not as fast. You're going to have to deal with an electric car or a state pod. You're going to have to make a choice because remember I said there was 5 levels of autonomous car. If you have a new car now, you're in level 1 because it doesn't run into the car in front of it and it beeps when you go into another lane. And then it goes up and it goes up and it goes up. You'll be satisfied with level 2. You'll be completely satisfied. They have to stay in a geometric fence, and the roads, they can't be country roads. That's level 5, and I don't see anything that tells me level 5 will come 20, 30 years.
So
These two guys are back against the wall. I'll take the one on the right.
okay, so I was at the Lexus dealer. I was asking about electric vehicles. When are they going to have a Lexus electric vehicle? And he said, look at Toyota. Toyota was the leader in the Prius in this whole area. And what they're pushing is a hydrogen car. And Lexus is likely to follow that. And he said there's big issues with the environmental mining of lithium and then disposing of batteries and everything else. Watch the leader, Toyota, what they're going to do. Any comments?
Yeah, you got a point. They're making a bet. Somebody's going to be wrong, right? Because I don't think there's room for 2, and Toyota is a bull in the china cabinet. And I recognize there's problems. There's not enough lithium to, we'd have more electric cars if they were. Lithium is not like oil. It's not a flow. It's a product. You can use it over and over again as the cars. But the infrastructure is in place to handle the electric motor. It's not in place to handle the hydrogen car. It's not a good answer. It's the best I can do. Yes, sir.
I'm interested in the real estate play on the disappearance of gas stations. There's a lot of prime real estate on corners around the country. What is the difference in space requirement for charging stations versus traditional gas pumps? In other words, a gas station can handle X number of cars a month.
Yeah.
What about a charging station
Yeah.
the same size?
Excellent. It'll happen. I'm sorry, I said it'll happen on the highway. You got to have a place to. On the interstate, you got to have a place to charge. In the city, they'll disappear. That's where they'll happen. With an autonomous car, you can let yourself out, and the autonomous car can run itself over the charging station. There's no more plugging. They will disappear in 5 years. They won't do it. So that's what I think will happen.
We're currently out of time for questions because we need to
Sure.
let people get on the way. If you wouldn't mind staying afterwards to answer individual questions, anybody that still has questions can talk to Joe afterwards. We do have one more task for you before you go.
Yeah.
We have a raffle.
Oh, nice special. Nice special.
So if you would pick a number and read it off to me.
Okay. Terry Kelly.
Wait a minute.
Now, we have something in there. Turn around. Could you read the four-way test?
Well, let's see. It's 518-8532.
8532.
Yep.
Sit right next to Terry. Look at me.
Yeah, you spin a lot for that, Jim Ball.
Thank you.
So, Ryan Bauer.
Get it.
All right, Brian, do your stuff here.
Hit it hard.
Oh, so close, so close.
Get the
But you do get a consolation prize, a bottle of, for polio, Noir. Right.
Nice.
And wait, joke of the day, Gus.
I have one.
Oh,
The choke,
Yes.
you ask for a clean choke and there is no such, no such.
okay, so I have a joke. What type of bee can't make up its mind? A maybe. It's clean, but it's bad. Take us out.
To you.